Let's see. Let's go over the Tim Pool thing a little bit. Tim Pool Destiny. Let's see if he has any clips from that. I hate his. Look at this channel. What? Like, there's something satisfying yet annoying. Like, it's really, like, none of his videos give me something visual to be attracted to. Instead, it's this. I don't even know what to think of this.
Disagree in a lot of stuff. It's going to be a fun conversation. I think, we'll have some back and forth. It'll be great. I think you were mentioning, all that stuff because you were looking at me as you were saying Biden, Obama 2.0 and all that stuff.
Yeah, it'll be fun, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. We were testing the limiters before this, screaming, seeing how loud we can go on the mics.
So we should be good to go. Yeah.
We have this thing where we can both scream at full volume and it automatically limits so that you don't blow your ears out.
You guys are welcome.
Ian's hanging out. So this
There
would be really interesting too. And of course, Lydia's producing.
I am producing.
And make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the notification bell. We are live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Well, let's just jump to the first story, and we'll talk about John Kerry reveals Biden's devotion to radical Great Reset movement from The Hill. This to me is really funny because they say the Great Reset's a conspiracy theory, but it's actually what they've been calling it for some time. The Hill says, in June, elites at an important important international institutions such as the World Economic Forum and the United Nations launched a far-reaching campaign to reset the global economy. The plan involves dramatically increasing the power of government through expansive new social programs like the Green New Deal and using vast regulatory schemes and government programs to coerce corporations into supporting left-wing causes. Obviously, this is, I think it's a biased view of what they're saying, but to be fair, the World Economic Forum has pushed a lot of left-wing causes as they've referenced the Great Reset. It goes on to say, the two justifications for the proposal, which has been aptly named by its supporters the Great Reset, are the COVID-19 pandemic, the short-term justification, and the so-called climate crisis caused by global warming, the long-term justification. According to the Great Reset's supporters, the plan would fundamentally transform much of society, as World Economic Forum head Klaus Schwab wrote back in June, quote, "The world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies. From education to social contracts and working conditions, every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism." They go on to say, internationally, the Great Reset has already been backed by influential leaders, activists, academics, and institutions, in addition to the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. The Great Reset movement counts among its there's a missing word there, I suppose. The International Monetary Fund, heads of state, Greenpeace, and CEOs and presidents of large corporations and financial institutions such as Microsoft and MasterCard. But in America, most policymakers, including President-elect Joe Biden, have been relatively quiet about the Great Reset, leaving many to speculate what a Biden administration would do to support or oppose this radical plan. They go on to say that at a panel discussion about the Great Reset hosted by the World Economic Forum in mid-November, former Secretary of State John Kerry, Biden's would-be special presidential envoy for climate, firmly declared that the Biden administration will support the Great Reset and that the Great Reset, quote, will happen with greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. When asked by panel host Borge Brend whether the World Economic Forum and other Great Reset supporters are expecting too much too soon from the new president, or is he going to deliver the first day on these topics, Kerry responded.
Okay. This is a really boring part, but like, what is the Great Reset? I looked this up a little during the thing, but then they move quickly from it. I don't know why Tim starts a show like this. I think I understand he starts all of his shows like this, but it seems like a really stupid thing to do because they don't really focus on the Great Reset except for, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe of the whole time. But if I look at, I go to Reddit just because usually you can find a decent summary there. What's the deal with the Great Reset? Wait, hold on. You guys aren't able to see all of that. Let me adjust. Not that. Not that. That. Yeah. All right. What is the deal with the Great Reset? Seems like a conspiracy thing, but apparently it's very mainstream, question mark. So obviously the World Economic Forum has this page for all to see, but it's unclear what it is. But people are also talking about it like it is like this communist conspiracy, talking about it like this communist conspiracy. People like Tim Pool are making videos about it. Of course he is. What's going on with this? What is the World Economic Forum stating this is, and what is the response? And maybe I don't really know what the World Economic Forum is. I'll say I don't know what the World Economic Forum is. I assumed it sounds like some think tank. It could be conservative, could be liberal, could be nonpartisan. I don't know. Answer: the World Economic Forum is a non-profit foundation whose main purpose is connecting influential people, politicians, journalists, CEOs, etc., in order to look for solutions for the world's problems. Their very nature makes them suspicious in the eyes of many people, and they are an easy target for conspiracy theories about secret cabals running the world. Their latest initiative, the Great Reset, wants to use the pandemic as an opportunity to rethink the way we do things and improve the lives of everyone, because the current system is clearly not working that way. Problem is, on the surface, this sounds quite similar to the New World Order idea that's been floating around for decades. So conspiracionists, is that a word? Person who believes in or supports conspiracy theory. I had never heard that word before. Conspiracionists are having a field day with it. May I ask what they are specifically rethinking in regards to the current normal? It is still a bit vague, to be honest. The general idea is to focus on the economy and the well-being of the population. I've read suggestions like implanting UBI programs or promoting green energy, but there doesn't seem to be a specific plan. There can't be a specific plan on a global scale because every country's needs and issues are their own. For example, Canada being one, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So it sounds like it's just a think tank that gets brought into conspiracy ideas because, you know, they want to do a global top-down approach to some sort of policy. I don't know. Okay. Got it. Thank you, sir.
The answer necessarily.
Isn't a crisis like one of your best opportunities to like restructure, like I give with the example of like a failing business? Like if something really horrible happens, generally horrible things happen because they expose some type of flaw or defect in what you do. Like isn't that the time for change, especially because that's when you're going to get the most like activism behind it?
Don't people have rights though? Like, don't you have a right to make choices for yourself, live your life,
Sometimes.
especially with the Constitution?
Kind of. That's a very vague sense. I mean, like, do I have the right to go out and get drunk and drive?
You don't.
Okay, so we have some rights, right? Insofar as we're not infringing on the rights of others. So whether that's crashing in a drunk driving accident or infecting someone.
All right, so let's see. I don't remember how this conversation went. I was excited in watching it with y'all. But I remember him making this point, and it's a very good one, Stephen, that you have rights, but those rights have limitations. So Stephen brings up the example of drunk driving. You have the right to go out and get drunk, but do you have a right to drive and risk other people's lives? The answer is no. We have laws that prevent you from being allowed to do that. Now, you can do it. You have the free will to do it. No one is there with a gun to your head saying, stop, don't get in that car every time you try to do it. But you will be held accountable if you're caught doing it, or if you do it and it leads to something bad happening, which is the reason the law was there in the first place. So when it comes to masks, you have a right to go outside without a mask. But it would not be wrong for the government to say, hey, masks are saving lives. That no one is inhibited from wearing a mask. There's nothing stopping it. Therefore, go out and do it. And if you're not, we're going to fine you. We're going to do whatever. Obviously, the punishment should be proportionate, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, you don't know if you have the disease, and if you spread that disease, you're asymptomatic, someone else might not be. That's the reason you have to wear masks. And I think that's where they're going, and I don't think Tim engages with this. Let's see.
Somebody with SARS-CoV-2, right? It's probably depends on what right we're talking about, I would imagine.
Yeah, so if you don't want to get sick, then shouldn't you stay home?
If you don't want a drunk driver to hit you, should you just never drive?
Well, that's different. That's someone who might be sick and doesn't know and is living their life under emergency circumstances like, I have to make money and feed my family. There's no circumstance where you have.
So do the people that are trying to not get sick. Like, wait, hold on. This makes no sense. He's like, if you don't want to get it, you should stay home. Those people who don't want to get it still need to go to work and still need to make money. They still need to support their families too. They need to support their own lives. This makes no sense. I think what Destiny should do for the next debate is I think he should, the next time he's on the show, I think he needs to take moments like this and he needs to follow them until they hit the wall, right? Tim's engaging, though I vehemently disagree with his points. Tim is engaging, and Steven shouldn't allow him to engage his way off the topic, which is what we saw during a lot of this. I really believe he needs to stick on him and force the topic. So even if throughout an entire 3-hour show they only get to like 4 topics, cool. Don't care. I want Tim pushed.
To be drunk and drive to
There's
feed your
no
family.
circumstance where you have to be outside and standing right next to people without a mask or whatever.
Well,
right?
we're not talking about that. We're talking. Well, I mean, if you want to criticize the Black Lives Matter protests and the Biden's the big Biden rallies or whatever they just did when Biden won, then yeah, there's no reason for those people to be doing that stuff.
You can simultaneously criticize them and the anti-lockdown people too as well, right? That's not like I can criticize both. To my knowledge, a lot of the people were in those protests were wearing masks, though. I mean, from what I saw.
Well, in the Biden one, they were taking their masks off and drinking and sharing drinks.
And again, he's pointing this out about the Biden one. He's got that smug little fucking lip curl going on as he's talking. It's like, yeah, but the Biden one. What about the Trump rallies where they were maskless and gathered? I don't think Steven brought that up. Maybe he did. We'll see. But like Trump was doing that. And this is one of my big problems with Tim Pool. He was there to criticize all of the Biden folks or after the election, all the Biden supporters that were out and about. But where was he criticizing the Trump rallies in the weeks leading up to it?
Was like one of the big videos that came around.
Sure, that's pretty dumb. That's pretty dumb for sure.
For sure.
But I'm just more fundamentally, I'm just saying that like to come up with the like, don't we have rights? Well, yeah, I mean, of course we do. But I mean, we learned this growing up. With more rights also comes more responsibility. Like we
I think the drunk driving thing doesn't work. There's a guy in Staten Island who got arrested trying to run his bar. He has to. Otherwise, he becomes homeless and he can't feed his family. And then what? Did they beg the government for help? The government's not giving it to him. And you can blame Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi.
No, you can blame Mitch McConnell. You can outright blame Mitch McConnell. This thing has been going around. Oh, fuck, we broke 7,000 followers. Thank you all. I just realized it. I don't think it happened today because I've only had 3 today, but thank you, Sayumi, Smurfwards, and Base Ninja. I'm sorry that I don't have alerts up, but we broke 7K followers. That's sick. This thing has been happening. I've been seeing it on Twitter for at least a week or so, where people were trying to say that Nancy Pelosi was the roadblock. Congratulations to whoever is in charge of the messaging that's led to this, because that's absolutely batshit insane. I can't function. No, it's been Mitch McConnell. The House has passed multiple bills, and it's been Mitch McConnell's Senate that is butt fucked. What did I just hit? Fuck. That is butt fucked the people of America.
I think the drunk driving thing doesn't work.
Okay, just rewind it.
There's a guy in Staten Island who got arrested trying to run his bar. He has to. Otherwise, he becomes homeless and he can't feed his family. And then what?
You know what? Tim is not totally off. Now, he's off when trying to blame Pelosi for Mitch's and Lindsey Graham and all these other spineless fucks. But Tim is not wrong. Like, this man needs to run his bar. There are business owners across America that need to run their institutions. There are landlords across America. I know there's a certain part of my audience that doesn't want to hear that, but that need to be able to collect rent in order to live, because most landlords are just individuals, not giant corporations. And so, yeah, these people need help. But it's been Mitch McConnell who has prevented that from happening, right? So we need a solution. We need the lockdowns and then the government support. Well, then you have a bunch of people saying, nah, just let people die, because that's socialism.
They beg the government for help. The government's not giving it to them. And you can blame Mitch McConnell or Nancy Pelosi.
No, we could blame Mitch McConnell. Pelosi sent him like trillions of dollars of bills that are dying on his desk.
But we still had Democrats saying it was Pelosi's fault. You had Wolf Blitzer criticizing Pelosi. So I think it's fair to point the finger at both.
We're pointing a very short dwarven finger at one, and we're pointing like the nose of Pinocchio at the other. In terms of people fighting over specific,
I want Tim to acknowledge that. Like, that would be a win to me. Is if Tim said, you know what, you're right. Mitch is, except he just laughs it off, and Steven continues. I don't blame Steven for continuing, but I think just in round 2, this is another area where he needs to hammer him, like not let him go. Because watch, we're going to move away from it in a second.
Specifically, what is Pelosi pushing for? What is she not pushing for? There can be back and forth over that. The fact of the matter is there was some like $2.5 trillion bill that was left in McConnell's desk when he moonwalked out of the Senate after they confirmed ACB. So, I mean, the blame is not even remotely close to equal there. The House passed legislation. The Senate let it.
He said for sure, but he's just talking about that one bill. I don't think he's actually acknowledging Stephen's point.
Die.
That's true.
You can't both sides that one, I don't think. But
I think that's whether or not it's me trying to do it. This is what people are doing, right?
Well,
we don't care what people are doing. Stephen is there talking to you, Tim. He's talking to you.
So Wolf Blitzer might have specifically criticized, like, "Hey, Pelosi." Maybe
he cited
Ro
Khanna.
What?
He cited Ro Khanna. He was citing Democrats who were calling out Pelosi, and Pelosi didn't want to answer the question. So, if obviously if you're on whether
dollar bill that was left in McConnell's desk when he moonwalked out of the Senate after they confirmed ACB.
I need to rehear that.
So I mean, the blame is not even remotely close to equal there. The House passed legislation, the Senate let it die.
That's true.
You can't both sides that one, I don't think. But
I think that's whether or not it's me trying to do it. This is what people are doing, right?
Well, so Wolf Blitzer might have specifically criticized, like, "Hey, Pelosi." Maybe
he cited
Ro
Khanna.
What?
He cited Ro Khanna. He was citing Democrats who were calling out Pelosi, and Pelosi didn't want to answer the question. So.
Ro Khanna, who I'm familiar with this particular Democrat. Ro Khanna. I'm assuming I know how to spell this. Ro Khanna, U.S. Representative. Rohit Khanna is an American politician, lawyer, and academic serving as the U.S. Representative from California's 17th District since 2017. Ro Khanna, criticism of Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is talking to the White House about a coronavirus deal, but won't tell anybody what's in it. This is an article from his website, or it's from The Intercept. And it's posted to his website as if it's from the website, but with a tag to a link from The Intercept. That's what it seems like. Quote me. Yeah, I'm trying to. I am trying to. Taco Bees asks, didn't Pelosi drop her plan and roll back on the COVID pre-protections and no monthly stimulus in the latest Democrat package, or was that misleading? I'm not 100% sure on what was taken out of this one versus the next. I mean, I know that they tried to provide a very expensive but all-encompassing stimulus package, and things just kept getting picked out and refused. We can do that tomorrow. We'll go over the differences in the packages. We'll dive into this subject a little more. But as far as Ro Khanna and his criticism, I'm not seeing anything about it specifically yet. Here's one about CNN's Wolf Blitzer. Hold on. The suffering is real. As Pelosi holds firm, some Democrats are getting desperate in COVID relief. Using CNN's Wolf Blitzer as a go-between, Democrats are at odds over whether to cut a COVID relief deal with the White House or twist Trump's arm for more. So it sounds like what Pelosi might have been doing is... all right, here's we'll read the first paragraph. Let's go through this. So we're stopping the Tim Pool review to go in depth on a subject that's been brought up. So give me 1 second. I gotta minimize this and then do that, and boom, here we go. All right, it's reading time. Like a child of divorced parents who are no longer speaking on speaking terms, CNN's Wolf Blitzer has been playing conduit between two factions of Democrats, one that's willing to strike a deal with the White House on COVID-19 relief bill and one that is not. On Tuesday night, Blitzer asked House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to respond to a tweet from Congressman Ro Khanna, one of the most vocal members of the former group, calling for a compromise on Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin's latest $1.8 trillion proposal. I don't know why you're always an apologist and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position, Pelosi shot back. Ro Khanna, that's nice. That isn't what we're going to do. This article, by the way, is from October 15th. Speaking with Blitzer the next day, Kana held firm. This is a time where we need to do a lot more, and it pains me that we're not being able to deliver. And that's why I'm going to come out and say that we need to get something done with as much power as I have, he said, praising the speaker for the progress she's made in negotiations. I acknowledge that I'm not a committee chair. I acknowledge that I don't have as much power in the institution, but you know what? I'm an equal member of Congress. I represent a constituency. Kana is not alone in his view. Other Democrats, too, are growing restless. Kana told me he has personally heard from upwards of 15 of his Democratic colleagues who support his position on striking a compromise, and he thinks the sentiment is even more widespread. Okay, so from what Tim is talking about, it sounds like Ro Khanna's deal is that he's like, hey, we are in desperate need. We need to make some sort of compromise. And Pelosi is fighting for not compromising, and I now want to go back into the Tim Pool clip again, and I want to rewind a bit. I want to make sure that I heard him correctly, because it sounded like to me Tim was saying that Ro Khanna, I'm sorry, it was Taco Bees who actually asked, not Tim. Pelosi dropped her plan to roll back on, she might have, on the latest deal, Taco Bees. She might have rolled back certain things to make this compromise, but here's the other idea. Right, this article and this topic seems to have been about 2 to 3 weeks before the election, and we're in that time where we don't know who's going to be elected, and we need to get as much passed as possible because we're just going to have to do this fight again before a vaccine comes. We also didn't know about the vaccine at this time, right? So Pelosi is trying, if I understand her position correctly, is trying to get as much passed through this iteration of stimulus as possible, because if she and the rest of the House Democrats don't do that, they don't know when the next round of funding is going to come. And so now it's much easier for them to take a far more stripped down bill, get something to the American people, because Joe Biden is going to take over, and we're going to have a much better time through Congress and through the Senate with proper leadership. And should we win the Senate, which is what we're hoping for, we're going to have a better shot at continuing to support the American people. So for the situations like where Tim is talking about, guess what? Homeboy is going to get protection for him and his business under the Biden administration, should this bullshit continue. But let's hear again what Tim said.
Look, if that's
$5 trillion bill that was left in McConnell's desk when he
right.
Well, so Wolf Blitzer might have specifically criticized, like, hey, Pelosi, maybe
he cited
you
Ro
could have gotten
Khanna.
What?
He cited Ro Khanna. He was citing Democrats who were calling out Pelosi, and Pelosi didn't want to answer the question.
Cool. No, Pelosi did answer the question. We just read it. I'll read it again just for real quick. This was her response. I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position. Pelosi shot back. Ro Khanna, that's nice. That's not what we're going to do. That's a response. That's a direct response. Now, they are in disagreement, and I would say I'm sympathetic to Ro Khanna's side. I absolutely know people who work in these various industries that need help and assistance. I'm not even talking about the owners of the businesses. I'm talking about the workers, the people who are working in restaurants that have downsized or coming into the winter haven't been able to support themselves because they have limited indoor seating and are trying to still abide by health requirements because we're still in this pandemic. But Tim's framing of this is completely disingenuous and not in alignment. And it's hard for Stephen because he doesn't have chat providing him the information in real time. And this is one of the benefits that Stephen gets from his chat, right? He's already has a great mind for processing arguments in real time, right? But the weakness that every human being is going to have is that we don't know everything, right? So unless Stephen is well-read on this, or unless another person engaged in this conversation is well-read on everything that Tim is going to bring up, you're going to run into these moments where you can't directly negate what they're saying. Because what Tim is saying right here sounds reasonable. He's saying, hey, Wolf was citing another Democrat, Ro Khanna, who was calling out Pelosi. Stephen doesn't know the full context. He doesn't know about this exchange that happened, or these exchanges that had been happening on CNN. He's not read this Vanity Fair article that we just skimmed through. So without that in his arsenal, it makes Tim far more effective at deflecting with what seems like reasonable points that, if pushed and challenged, would turn out to be bullshit. So if you had chat with him while in studio, which I would love, I would say that would be a testament to Tim Pool's bravery as a media personality to allow Steven to have the chat in real time. I think that would make for an incredibly interesting conversation. I'd also like to see Steven's face go red with one of the NSFW links during a live Tim Pool show. That would be awesome.
So, look, if like obviously if you're on the right's going to say, see, the issue with the Heroes Act was that they wanted fun, like, you know, they were stuffing things in it that didn't make sense, and the Republicans did the same thing. They wanted money for an FBI building. I don't want to go off on the you know, Democrat versus Republican.
Sure. Well, it's important because obviously as a huge diehard Biden fan, I'm going to fight viciously back against the idea that both sides messed up. The fact of the matter is that if I go into the Senate, they did not give us legislation for any type of coronavirus release, and Pelosi did. She delivered. We have that legislation. It's sitting on the floor of the Senate, and it's never going to be called for a vote. But,
well, so I want to keep it to the discussion of the lockdown rights, the Great Reset stuff.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I want to go back to that too as well, Tim. I just think that this moment highlights a very good spot for locking him down. But so does the COVID argument with. But you see what he fucking did? Because he did it to us too. Because look at us having a conversation instead about the COVID and the comparison between what you can technically go out and do, but you're not allowed to do because it harms others around you. We have moved on from that, and our minds are not even thinking about it because he fucking gish galloped us. Now, okay, I guess it's not a gish gallop, but he threw a red herring out there and he distracted us long enough that we're not going to get back to that focal point we were at before.
The government is clearly not providing for people, regardless of whose fault it is. You can say it's Republicans' fault, then absolutely.
Sure.
What is a working class, you know, man or woman to do when they're told, specifically in Staten Island, the issue was that this bar wasn't allowed to serve people, but 2 blocks away, everything was normal. They said this specific zone has been locked down. So when the guy said, I have nothing left to lose, the money that did go out overwhelmingly went to massive corporations. The lockdown is overwhelmingly benefiting.
the money should go to massive corporations, right?
No.
Why not?
It should go to the people who can then buy resources to go to the businesses to make sure they can cover their costs and their taxes.
Okay, so the PPP loans, I wish I could remember what every word stands for, but the PPP loans were loans given to corporations that allow them to cover up to 2.5 months of employment expenses when they paid employees. If they did that, then the loan was going to be forgiven. We still haven't gotten the paperwork for what that forgiveness looks like, but that's the point. So if I have one corporation that hires 10,000 people and another company that hires 10 people, well, of course more money is going to go to the corporation because there's more payroll to cover, right? But it's not. But the corporations aren't.
It's a semantic issue.
Well, no, it's not semantic.
No.
It's not semantic because the PPP is specifically about payroll, is it not? I don't think it goes for anything else, or at least you have to still pay the money back if it doesn't go to payroll, something like that. It does matter.
Very important, yeah.
What I meant was not that a small business with 10 employees was getting money. What I meant was when the lockdown happens, the money ends up in the hands of the ultra wealthy. The stores that are allowed to remain open tend to be the big box stores. And that's why we saw the massive profits, the massive spiking in stock value for these big companies, notably Amazon. The working class people got $1,200.
Reminds me of check my
Yeah,
stuff.
stock values are definitely a thing. But if you, I'm just talking very specifically because it's very important to understand each of these policies. So the PPP only works for you if you pay out employees. So I got a PPP loan. The way that works, the way that the paperwork details is that when I get that money, I can claim up to 2.5 times the expenses of all of my employees. And the only money that's forgiven for me is what I pay out to my employees. So for me personally, there were like 2 people that I kept on payroll just because, the government's going to pay for it. Yeah, screw it. I'll take the PPP money and then I'll continue to pay them out because it'll be forgiven. I only kept those 2 people on payroll because the government gave me that PPP money. And any corporation isn't going to pocket the money. It gets paid out to employees. It has to be.
Did they give you money to pay your rent, pay your taxes, pay your costs, replace perishable goods?
No, it's just to cover the cost of employing the employees.
So
not to cover everything, yeah.
What happens to the lockdown is massive businesses, the likes of McDonald's, Starbucks, they can shut down and they can roll their eyes.
And they can absorb. 100% I agree.
Small businesses are being destroyed. So that's the...
Okay, now I want to circle back again because I'm keeping it up here because I'm mindful of it. We are completely off of Tim's discussion about masks, and I want him, or I'm sorry, masks and not going out and closing down. Like, sure, we're talking about the businesses, but that doesn't absolve him of the stupid idea that we don't have a responsibility, or that it is wrong for the government to impose some sort of protective measure that protects the average citizens. Like I had someone on Twitter talk to me about like there's some Catholic ritual that has to be done in person, can't be done over a Zoom call, whatever it is. And I said, okay, cool. Would you, if you knew that going to church this Sunday would, if you didn't go to church this Sunday, that 9/11 doesn't happen, would you go to church? And the person said, yes. And then he gave something about, their religion and whatever. And I'm not going to disparage that, but like, to me, that's mind-blowing, and I think a little disingenuous. I think if we go back to 2011 and we say it's September 12th, 2011, right? And I say, if you go to church this Sunday, that's going to happen again. Guess what? No one goes to fucking church. But because we are experiencing the pandemic, because we've been hearing about the numbers of deaths on the daily, the fact that we're now having nearly 9/11 deaths every day, not 911, but the equivalent to 9/11. The fact that we're at that point, it doesn't really resonate. And also because people aren't seeing it, and also because they're believing misinformation. There are so many reasons why the pandemic isn't impactful in the minds of so many Americans. And it comes down to misinformation. It comes down to a lack of leadership from Donald Trump downwards. And it comes from a lack of empathy. But the empathy one I'm the most understanding of, because empathy in humans often requires some sort of ability to connect. And we usually connect through seeing the events, right? We're able to understand them. So when you are staying up late at night and it's 12:30 in the morning and you see the Arms of an Angel ad come on for the puppies, or you see the ads for donating to children in Africa that are starving, and you see their faces and they all look sad, and their bellies are bloated and they're so emaciated, and you're like, oh my God, please. In that moment, you are most likely to donate. The moment that show comes back on, you are likely to completely forget about that shit, right? I wish I had statistics for the number of calls that come in during that versus the number of calls that come in when an advertisement is not playing. But the reason that is, to backtrack, or to circle back, the reason that is because we see it, we're able to empathize with it, but when the show comes on, we move on. It's not cruel. It's not a lack of caring for your fellow man. It's just the way the human mind works, right? So the lack of empathy thing, I can understand, because that's the one that requires a little bit of sight. But if we had leadership from Donald Trump down on the Republican side, and if we had the media generating honest feedback, and the media I'm pointing at is Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, and any online pundit, like, am I pointing right way? Tim fucking Pool, and anyone else that operates the way he does on the internet. Those are the people responsible for any individual that is believing, for most individuals, sorry, we're going to have nut jobs everywhere. For most individuals that believe that COVID is something that just needs to be let go and run its course, and that it's not as bad, or that people can't empathize with it or understand the severity of all the deaths, it's people like Tim. Period. End of story.
The question, I said, don't people have rights? When these people we see now, there's a West Michigan story going viral, where a guy, there's a news report going on. A guy walks out of his restaurant and he yells to the news reporter. He's like, "Is this you? Are you talking about me?" And he said, "They've taken everything. The money is going to their friends. It's going to special interests. The bailout that came out, people did get a stimulus, and then money did go to small businesses. But if the small businesses are shut down and can't sell things, what happens? The restaurant, their perishable goods, gone. They can't reopen. So in New Jersey, a third of small businesses have been destroyed.
Sure. And I've heard similar in New York restaurants and everything. Like, a lot of places that are closing are never coming back, probably. It's a tragedy, of course. Yeah.
So I guess to keep it in context of the Great Reset, talking about exploiting a crisis to make some change, is also destroying the lives of people, resulting in spikes in suicide, spikes in crime.
I don't think we're locking down, though, for the Great Reset. I think we're locking down because record numbers of people are getting infected and dying from the coronavirus. If we can do something on the backs of that, I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world. Maybe part of that Great Reset, and I'm almost positive without knowing the intricacies, I'm pretty sure that part of that Great Reset is probably going to be like more stimulus for small business owners. It's going to be covering healthcare for people. It's going to be more types of like checks or disbursements during like times of crisis. That's probably going to be baked into that Great Reset as well. Because as you accurately pointed out, the relief that we got so far, even the PPP loans were a joke. And what is it, like one $1,200 check, I think, went out to every American? That's like, it would have almost been better to send nothing, because that $1,200 is like a slap on the face. Like, what's wrong?
Do you know that 23.6% of all U.S. dollars ever created was created this year?
I was not aware of that.
That's crazy, right?
Doesn't sound too crazy. It sounds like probably the Fed is doing what it can to. The Fed's primary job is to reduce inflation and to curb unemployment. Which is funny because Trump always takes credit for low black unemployment, even though that's squarely in the job of the Federal Reserve, which has no oversight from the president. But the Federal Reserve probably sees that we are spiking unemployment as long as we're not raising in inflation, which we haven't been. Their goal would probably be some form of QE, quantitative easing, or super low interest rates, or whatever. So, yeah, that makes sense.
I think, first of all, I'd say I would agree with you on a lot of these things. Mm-hmm. And also, if your perspective is the lockdowns are strictly because of we have this pandemic,
mm-hmm.
That's an opinion, I guess. You know, you'll argue that you're correct. I think when you look at certain jurisdictions and you look at the World Health Organization saying it's a very, very last resort, it should be avoided, and it can be, and they do it anyway, it sounds to me like, well, they've said it. They want to exploit COVID-19. It's their opportunity to enact this policy. And they didn't say it was because of COVID-19. They said it was because of climate change. So should I disregard the World Health Organization's warning about lockdowns?
So I think I don't know among major countries, because I know there are some small ones, but among every country, we're 11th right now in per capita death, and we lead the world in absolute death. I don't know what last resort sounds like to you, but that sounds like we're pretty close to like last resort there.
The people who this is the big challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Our economy is what did we drop, like 30% or like 30 something percent this year?
Potentially, yeah.
People we're facing mass evictions.
Mass unemployment, yep.
The reason I pointed out the printing of money is that is absolutely not a solution in any capacity. It's a desperate last resort where they're just like, money printer go burr, desperately trying.
What does he think is supposed to happen? Like, it's a response to the situation we're in. Like, it isn't just money go burr, you meme machine.
Trying to keep the machine churning in some capacity.
Uh-huh.
But if people ultimately stop doing things that give them the money value, then ultimately we're headed towards some kind of really serious economic collapse.
What
especially
is your point?
I'm not going to disagree with you here, and we talked a little bit about this off air. The problem is that right now we have the worst of both worlds, and that we are doing half-assed lockdowns that are locking down just enough to absolutely destroy small businesses and average workers, but we're not locking down enough to prevent the spread of the disease. So what we're getting is the disease is spreading almost uninhibited, or it almost feels like it's uninhibited. I'm sure it has been to some extent. And then we're seeing all these businesses close down, and because we're doing it in such a lackadaisical manner, like.
But why are we doing it that way? One, because there are people who believe that the governors should have the right to not employ lockdown or not standardize the lockdown. Again, if we had leadership from the president, this wouldn't have been an issue. Now, governors would have still been like, oh, our economies are really hurting, and it would have been tough. But guess what? If it wasn't politicized, we would have just imagine if we had 9/11, post 9/11 unity, right? There would have been no fucking issue. Everyone would be wearing a mask, right? Big red, white, and blue masks, both sides of the aisle. We would have governors that are locking down their fucking states. We would have the federal government providing a ton of money to everyone so that we can all survive and get by. Businesses would be subsidized to survive the pandemic. 1/5 of all restaurants in America wouldn't be closing because we would be keeping in mind that those operate as banks for local economies, from florists to produce providers to meat providers, whatever. These institutions would be in much better shape had we had some leadership. So what they're talking about here is true. Yes, we are in a situation of dire need because we haven't done it right. That's what it comes down to. We just didn't do it right. And why didn't we do it right? I'm sorry, but there's that big fuck finger that gets to point at Donald Trump. And it's not just, here's liberal Lycan talking shit about Trump. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Had he been a fucking adult, we wouldn't be in this situation. We would not be in this situation. Had any conservative in the House and Senate had the intestinal fortitude to speak up against him, to bring a coalition of their fellow conservatives, to rope in the governors, to say, hey, this is bigger, way bigger than whatever bullshit you're trying to pull. But it seems that people knew. There were people in this administration who knew, including Donald Trump. But we don't care because Donald Trump's going to do what Donald Trump's going to do, right? So whatever. But there are other people that were completely aware of how severe the coronavirus was going to be. I believe that Loeffler was one of them, which is why she sold her stocks. Oh, we didn't end up talking about the canvassing too much. We'll have to do that tomorrow morning. But we're gonna stop it here. We're gonna continue on. But I mean, we are 19 minutes into this, and we just kind of see the way that Tim's conversational style, whether intentional or not, can just zig and zag around a topic, and we never stay on point. He never gets backed into a corner because as you approach the corner, he dips out, and then he turns right back on you and he's like, "Oh, what about that?" My name is Lycan. Please subscribe to my channel, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I need your subs and I need your support so I can grow my shit bigger. Please, oh please, I don't need donations, just need your follows and adorations. Please, 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 like, subscribe, and follow.